the content creation process is backwards. She's not so bad after all if you met her at her husband. Would you believe that Instagram is a magazine rack and that is a feed? And the writing comes first, not the images. When he launched that ad, he's now turning over about 10 million a year. Right, so while we're waiting for everyone to settle down, my name is Paul. I'm a social media hotelier. I have some good news and I have some potentially bad news. So can we have hands up for good news first or bad news? Good news first, hands up. Don't be shy. It's going to be really interactive. So the good news is I don't have any PowerPoint slides. Everyone's been sitting through PowerPoint. And when Damien invited me to come and speak, he said it's very educational. So I've got a whiteboard and I'm going to teach. The bad news is, as well as helping hosts and property managers leverage Instagram and social media into their marketing, I also happen to be in the Royal Auxiliary Air Force. So I'm very, very good at volunteering people. So be prepared for it. I have some lesson notes. I've taught this online several times. It's going to be a lesson. I've never taught it to a live audience. So things might get a little bit funky, might get a little bit strange in the middle. But the first thing I'd like to do is just to get a read on the audience, please, just to understand where you are with social media and Instagram. Could you all please stand up for me? Right. So if you don't use Instagram to promote and market your portfolio or your properties, please sit down. Okay, we definitely need to talk later. Please come and find me. And if you create your own content, either for your own property or you have an in-house team, if you could please sit down. If you create your own. Okay. So no one here has outsourced anything to social media managers or anything along those lines. Okay. Oh, we still stood. Okay, good.
We outsource.
So I'm very, very pleased about that because I intend to blow your minds. I'm very much a believer that the content creation process is backwards. So I'm going to try and lead you along a bit of a journey. And what I'd like to do is leave here knowing that I've seen at least 3 or 4 light bulbs go off. You go, ooh, aha. So as I said, my name is Paul Anderson. I am the social media hotelier. That's how I'm known. You'll often see me with an orange beanie. It's just accidentally turned into my branding. And what I do is I teach people to funnel traffic from social media onto a profile where they then become interested, create a flywheel of content so that we stay top of minds. And then when they're ready in that part of the booking journey, then to exit through and come to our direct booking websites. So one more question. Actually, there will be quite a few questions in here. So does anyone here struggle? So you get an amazing picture of a sunset or a fireplace or something and you go, I'm going to put that on social media, and struggle to find words to accompany it. So everyone else here is perfectly happy with writing copy and putting content and words alongside their images. No? Currently, there's only 2 people who struggle with that. So everyone else, none of this is going to mean anything to you. Please go. So I'm going to challenge that a little bit. So I'd like to run a bit of a thought experiment, please. So could you all close your eyes? Don't worry, I'm not going to come and nick your iPhones or anything like that. I've got my own. It's at the back filming. So I'd like you to imagine that you're in a supermarket with your eyes closed, sir. Imagine you're in a supermarket. Lovely. Thank you for joining in. And you're stood at the conveyor belt. You put all your groceries up on the conveyor belt and you're waiting to pay. But there's a person at the front who's fiff-faffing around and moving at a glacial pace. So you just want them to go. So the conveyor belt is on your left. Ordinarily, on the right-hand side, you will find a rack. So with your eyes shut, if you could shout out the types of things you see on the rack alongside a conveyor belt in a supermarket. Okay. So we've got gum. We've got sweets because supermarkets hate parents. Some say magazines. Razors. Okay. Good. So we'll go with magazines because I've designed it to go that way. I'm not going to talk about chewing gum. So I need 6 volunteers, please. Matilda, amazing. Neely, amazing. Wonderful. Please come on up. Lovely. Please. 4, 5, 6 will be fantastic. Could you choose 2 magazines, please?
Okay. So sorry.
Love it. You need two. You need two until Sarah Ferguson, always a winner. Keep Sarah Ferguson. She'd be really helpful to all.
Okay.
Okay. And I'd like you to line up here, please. And if you could hold one magazine up to the audience, and we're going to make a magazine rack. We're going to make a 2-row magazine rack so everyone can see the front covers of the magazines. So when we're stood at the supermarket till and we're bored and our eyes catch a magazine, what tends to be the first thing that our eyes get drawn to, would you suspect?
People's faces.
People's faces. It's the image. What do we then move to?
Titles.
The title. So if we subscribe to a magazine, we're more inclined to head in that direction. Then we see an attention-grabbing image of Sarah Ferguson. And then we would see a headline. It could be, she's not so bad after all, have you met her husband? Or his Zara. And then there's a snippet. There's a little bit of text. And just as you read to the bottom of the little bit of text and it says full article on page 7, you get a tap on the shoulder because the first little bit grabbed away and it's your turn to take the, so grab the magazine and put it on the conveyor belt and the editor has done their job. Everyone with me so far? So, this is where it's going to get interesting. I've never done this slide. What I'd like you to do is try and get these stacked vertically.
Okay.
So, one of you, Amelia, you're diminutive. So, we're going to hold them up like this. Like that.
Oh, I see.
Going to hold them up like that. Lovely. Would you believe that Instagram is a magazine rack and that is a feed? So, Amelia, if you put yours on the top, and we move that one down, and then this one will go on the top.
Yes.
Yes, it works. It works. Thank you. Please feel free to take your seat. I'm very grateful. Can you give everyone a round of applause? So, what do we know from that little experiment? So we always begin, here's my rubber. We'll start with a picture. There's the picture. And on the front cover, we then have, what color shall I use? Purple. Then we have a headline. Yes, can everyone see that at the back? Yeah. And then we're into the article. And we have a call to action at the bottom. So the viewer will go from the image to the headline to the article to a call to action. So if we translate this over to Instagram, because we've just established that Instagram is a magazine web, and if we follow in the key, it's because we subscribe to that publication, we end up with an image in a box, and then there's a hook. This is the 120 or so characters that Instagram will display before anyone has to tap. So if you don't get anyone past the image and the hook, it doesn't matter what is in here, it's a complete waste of time. Then we have our caption. This is the value we give to our audience, or to our reader, or to our casual observer. And then in return for this value, we ask for something. Call to action, like this post. If you agree, head to the link in bio to find out more, share it with a friend who wants to travel, and that sort of thing. Does that all follow? Okay, so the image stops to scroll, the hook captures, intrigues, compels someone to want to read on, they read the value, and in return, we ask the something. So how did the editor do this? Does anyone have any idea about an editorial process for, maybe I should make that clear, that's the magazine, and that seems to be. Does anyone have any idea how an editor goes about creating a front page for a magazine or for a e-book? Any can see.
You all said it in song.
Sorry?
Based on the content that it's going to be popped that much.
Yeah, almost. So I have a friend who's a magazine editor in Oxford, with a music rag, and he said, either I will commission an article or a journalist will come to me and say, I've written an article, I think it's perfect for your readership. And it's just something I've always wanted to say loud in a room. Hold the front page. So hold the front page. And he gives it to his editorial team. Now, his editorial team are very, very good at one thing in particular, and they're very, very well paid for it. And that's writing headlines. I don't read The Sun, but I do like their headlines. They always make me go, like a bit of a dad joke thing. The editorial team will then take the article and the headline, and they'll go to photojournalists, or they'll go to the archivists and say, I need an image to back this up. They'll then lay it all out on the front page. They realize they haven't got enough space, so they have to truncate the article and put the call to action at the bottom. Full article on page 7. Does that follow? And the writing comes first, not the images. And 90% of my clients feel coached one-on-one, and most of my students begin with, I've got all these wonderful pictures and all these images. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know what to say about them, because the general perception is from Instagram of old, 15 years ago, a photo sharing app, is that the images were important. Where in actual fact, it's the image that will grab the attention, but it's the words that will move people's wallets eventually. And this is where we can tell our brand stories and these types of things. I would argue, until I'm blue in the face, that any form of effective, successful media or marketer must begin with your words. So can anyone think of the type of media that doesn't begin with words? So we must always begin with words, whether it's films, theatre, documentary, tweets, YouTube shorts, YouTube longs, radio, TV. It all begins with words. So marketing has gone through an enormous change. Gone are the days of Rupert Murdoch, Maxwell, and from obviously this a bit when I say his name, where the gatekeepers were, could you afford a full page ad there, folks? Because the method of distribution was to throw out an enormous dragnet, knowing that if you captured enough fish, you'd get the volume of the fish that you want. So the thing that's changed is that Meta, I'm going to focus on Meta particularly, is outstanding at curating our magazine box to presenting the content that it believes we will value. So the whole business model is put content in front of people who will value it, they will stay longer on the platform, and we can put more paid advertising in front of them. So much so that Meta is now worth $1.7 trillion. Quarter 3 of this year turned over $55 billion, of which more than 54.5 of those $1 billion came from ad revenue. So if you remember that the algorithm's job, all of them, there are thousands of them, is to put content that people will value in front of the people that value them, then we can create that content and the algorithms will handle the distribution for us. So instead of trawling the fish, we are fly fishing. We're using a particular type of bait to catch a particular type of fish. But what hasn't changed is the biopsychology. Grab attention, hold it with emotion, tell a story, give them some value. They would back up that value and prove what we're saying. They'll use a user-generated concept reviews, these types of things, and then use a call to action to get one to do save. So the images can make us smile, they can make us fry, but it's the words that will move people from state A to state B. And marketing is just that, moving someone from, for example, wanting to visit and stay in Manchester to needing to stay with the Hindbeef or where they're going to stay. And we use stories and our brands to push people from that state A to that state B. So the mechanics have changed, but the principles are exactly the same. So if we reverse engineer the journey, both with a magazine and with Instagram, from scroll-stopping image to a hook that intrigues or compels, and then they move into the caption and we ask for something back. If you reverse engineer that, then we should always start writing our content with our caption, with our value. Once we know the value that we can give to a potential guest or a dream guest, only then do we spend time writing hooks. Now, I don't know if anyone here has heard of a guy called Mr. Beast on YouTube. Yes, he averages about 120 million views per video. He spends 80% of his time on the hooks and the thumbnail will lift people in, but you don't get people across the hook that doesn't ask what comes next. Has anyone heard of Alex Hormozy? Do look him up. Well, actually don't, because once you find him, he just floods you with content. So he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the United States. He's a salesman, business guru, so on and so forth. He had a friend who was launching a SaaS digital product, And you got, I forget who the famous person was, but you got someone like Jay Leno, flew them out, did this ad that was going to go out on Facebook, threw Jay back, paid him an absolute fortune, ran the advert, and made about $50,000. So he went for his thumbed ad. He said, what's going wrong? I had to watch the first 30 seconds of the video and said it's a report. Got Jay Leno, threw him all the way out again, set the whole thing up, cost him 6 figures, and when he launched that ad, he's now turning over about 10 million a year. Because of the first 30 seconds. So, if we start with our article, there's the article, and then we write the headline, and then we figure out what we want people to do. If you constantly tell people, head to my link in bio, 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 particularly on Facebook, all of your followers know where your link in bio, which is going to bore the rigid. You can mix those up with likes, comments, feedback, shares, that sort of thing. And only then, only then do we go for an image. And we all have beautiful images on our websites. We all have stock images. We all have stuff on our phones. It's far easier to find the image that supports what you're saying, because then you can lead your viewers and your followers on exactly the same day that the lovely volunteers helped us work through the image and out the other end to act. Because any piece of content that does not have a call to action on it, in my view, doesn't deserve any action terror. We've done very well, haven't we? So we got 5-10 minutes. Before I wrap it up, has anyone got any questions? I'll do what piece of.
What the rule, as it seems to be an extremely important thing? How do you know what is a good hook? Obviously, you can test and learn, but like intuitively, what do you think works?
So intuitively, what doesn't work would be open-ended questions. So questions such as, why not have a skiing holiday? You go, well, actually, I'm heading to see yourself. And you end up carving out half and half. So if you can create intrigue, so you might begin one with, you won't believe what I learned in the 15 years since I opened a show. Oh, okay. Creating outrage, a little bit dangerous. You get black and white, but it can filter out people, particularly if you're a very personal host and you're meeting and greeting. I certainly found when I use those types of hooks for my business, because I was the one answering the phone and the emails and opening the door, I was deliberately, in some respects, trying to cut off people that I didn't want to come in. So curiosity, intrigue, some sense of a reveal. It's one of those touchy-feely things. It's very, very difficult to define how to do it. And what people who are putting out content at volume will do is they will A/B test. They'll run 2 at the same time. If that one does better, we'll change everything over to that direction. It's a bit of a roundabout answer. I'm sorry I haven't got anything concrete for you. Yeah, it's a really difficult thing to do. And it just takes practice. It just takes practice. So for my students, we have a content calendar. So it's day of the week, what they're going to talk about in terms of a content pillar and then subtopics. But off the back end of it, the calendar is structured with the value, then the hook, then the call to action in a spreadsheet in separate sections. So what they do, they then record the performance of that, but it gives them the building back bubble of, well, one didn't. That could work when that one did. You're going to start plugging them around. That's the closest approximation to any sense of data-driven scissor-writing. Tell them back.
What's the sake on without bike events or he'll be paid to do that all time? So
I'm not a believer in anything being old ham. I think if you think that your dream guest is going to value that, and it's what I would call evergreen content that will serve in a month, in a year, and so on and so on, that can be particularly helpful. What a little twist you could do on it would be you could run a series. So you could spread them out. You could do 5 individual posts. So if you had a number of them, then you get people almost binging your content. And the more time people spend with your content, the more of it, it's the algorithms are going to put into people's feeds. So no, I don't think it's old hat. I'm very much a believer of if it works for you and it works for your audience and your guests, then why would you do anything different? Steve. It's exactly that, is looking at types of responses that we get. And also remembering that people learn. People will be watching you even though you can't necessarily see that. And often people will measure things like external link clicks as a proportion of people who visit their profiles. That's fine. But certainly when I booked my accommodation here, I looked at the website because Scale had recommended them. Then I went to the Instagram just to get a feel for the vibe. And then I went back to the website and said the Instagram is never going to record anything, even though I booked. But I'm lost. The lady in the middle here will put her hand up. Hi. Yeah, that's you. Hi.
I have social activities. Yeah. And it has been pre-placed. So, as my packet for the last 24 months. Would you recommend, I'm doing brand refresh now, big sports, in Scragan next year. Would you recommend me to start fresher cats or try and read 9 months of already?
I keep what you've got already. I wouldn't go back in time and start adjusting any of the content. I would just draw a line and read forwards.
Yeah, delete 3 just.
You'll spend your time doing that. And it's all well and good looking backwards. But the windscreen is bigger than the rearview mirror, so just go forwards. What I'd certainly suggest you do is understand intimately who your dream guest is. Understand what's going to move them from state A. From state A to state B. And then decide, it's a very easy thing to do. Just sit down and try and create, if you're doing it yourself, create 10 pieces of content. That takes you 10 hours. And you can find 10 hours in a fortnight, and you know you're doing Monday through Friday for each week. If it takes you 10 hours and you can only spare an hour, carve that hour out. This is my content marketing. Do 1 post per week.
Yeah, it's belief in your activity because I people know.
Okay, yeah. So if you were to build yourself a very straightforward calendar, just schedule them. Use Meta Business Suite and you can schedule them. So instead of pushing them into drafts, have the same kind of mental freedom, schedule it. That way, if you decide that you can only create 1 post per week, just do 1 post per week. People often confuse constancy with sisters. And we need to drip. Doesn't need to be a constant flow. But if you go constant drip, not only will the algorithm start to understand when you're posting content and users get to engage with it, but it will then enhance the ability to open small and let them through. All want to see it. Or you say, got your workflows down, and you could dial it off. Remember, of course, they're going from 1 to 2. There's a much bigger leak in going to 3 to 4. You're welcome. Say it. Instagram stories.
Yeah.
As a format.
In the whole mix of things, like how much is like too many, for example, or sweet. Like the story.
And we're kind of treading onto the Instagram. Well, my microphone's. We're kind of treading onto Instagram guru stuff, which is just post content all the time. I think Instagram stories. So for those who aren't aware, Instagram stories are live in a stories feed for 24 hours and then they disappear. People don't really understand them, so they tend to shy away from them. They're as valid a format as reels or posts or carousels or anything along those lines, simply because different types of content format will have different purposes. And so you might not get massive reach on your Instagram stories, but the people who are looking at them are your super fans. So just taking a post and resharing it as a story, bad idea. If you frame it and you have a story that leads into it, you give it some context, then you share the post, and then on the next story you have, and I'm running a deal, put a link sticker on it, and then it can actually push people onto your website. So yeah, not to be ignored. They're nice because you can create them quickly. No one's expecting polished content. It's easily consumable. So how are we doing for time? We've got a few minutes. Yeah, okay. This gentleman here was what?
Is there a type of content that works better for bringing in guests, say if you're trying to get direct bookings, and a type of content that works better to, say, client acquisition? And say if you are a management company, how do you reconcile the two? Because sometimes if you're a management company, you want to tell your clients that you're smashing it, or you want to advertise them, that you don't necessarily want your guests to see your figures. So if you've got one social profile, how do you reconcile the two? Should you have two different?
You should absolutely have 2 separate ones for several reasons. One, if you are being laser focused and you're fly fishing for a client or for a guest, you don't want to confuse the algorithms. The algorithms need to know these people engage with this type of content, and so I'm going to put it into their feeds and it comes from that account. So you're facing almost in 2 directions, and the same for your clients. Equally, if you're mixing that content into one profile and a potential guest comes, They come to your profile and they say, look at our wonderful property management service. And they go, that's not me. And they're gone. And once they voted with their feet, the algorithms go, oh, they're not interested in that content anymore. And chances of you getting in their feeds, it's a bit apocryphal, but getting in their feeds again, highly unlikely. So I would separate those two things. One for clients and acquisition, one for attracting guests and getting heads on beds. There were a couple more hands.
Well, one more question. Question.
There's a hand up at the back.
Yes.
Anna, just a quick question about ChatGPT. Do you recommend using it for business hub content? Do you set up your brand voice to start racing those hooks, or do you also feed back to any visual?
Massive can of worms, this one, isn't it? So, AI, in my opinion, large language models are looking at the average. They're looking for the next, what it would presume to be the next best word in the sentence. And as a result, I forget if it was Stanford or Princeton, there's been a study done where they've proved a correlation between AI and how people are now starting to speak. And it is a race to the middle. It is a race to the average and the mediocrity. It's creating the soup and the slop that we all hear about. I'm sure if you wanted to talk to Neely about it, she and I would just stand here all day and go on about it. So what I would strongly recommend is handle with care. It's very good for getting off a blank page. It's very good for introducing structure, very good for ideation. And so when I create content, I kind of think of it as a 10-80-10 split. So I will frame what I'm doing, and I have projects and I've been training it for about 10% of the time. I let it do about 80% of the heavy lifting. But then I come back and I spend 10% personalizing it and making it mine. What I'll often do is I'll dictate to it. I'll ask it to summarize what I want to say. I'll print that out and then I'll go write my own copy. Neely and I were talking yesterday how actually it's becoming increasingly easy to spot edited AI copy. And so moving away from that and maintaining your authenticity will be what will cut through the noise. With 3 billion people visiting Instagram every month now, cut through that noise and make you stand out. And one thing I did want to say in terms of that noise and that volume, quick poll, who would rather have, so if you'd like 52 followers who all want to book a 1-week stay with you, put your hands up. All right. Who would like 52,000 who find you entertaining and funny? It's quality, not quantity. Cut through, reach the distribution, that dragnet, forget it. Laser sharp. And to that end, I was going to wrap up, but there's a slide somewhere. How does this work? So I did say there were no slides, but I've got one. I've already put it down. There. So to come back again here, yeah, the orange beanie. If you want to know why there's an orange beanie, you know. Back at the beginning of the conversation, a magazine editor will commission or write articles for their readership. People will subscribe to the magazine because they like the value and the content. So it all begins with a perfect potential guest. Loads of people have scanned that without knowing what's in it. So that's kind of exciting and cool. This will give you, it will ask you for an email for an email address. There are lots of people here who subscribe to my newsletter, so they can vouch. I won't spam you. It's just value. It's quite long form, 2,000-3,000 word stuff. So if you're interested in that, you will be on my newsletter for that. But that will take you to a 2-page perfect potential guest worksheet that covers not just the demographics, but also the psychographics, what will move people from state A to state B. So to finish, I need to thank the people at Hein for this wonderful car. And Louise, thank you very much for your time, for being here. Thank you for having me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was something a little bit different. I'll be here all day if you need anything. Okay. Thank you.